Hello and welcome to ABW Radio Live. Apologies for the delay. I'm your host Chris. We had some technical issues. I don't know why, but the American internet is wonky. I don't know, something's not working. So hopefully,
Maybe it's your internet.
maybe it's just my fucking shitty PC. Anyway, let's just hope that this goes without a hitch. If it goes with a hitch, then just blame Danny. As I say, I'm your host Chris. I'm joined by just two today because Drew got sort of sidelined by an unexpected shopping trip from the missus. So blame the missus, yes. But I have still got Tom and I have still got Jace. Afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, sirs.
And Tom, do you want to just tell the listeners how you're feeling?
I'm not feeling great, and the
Uh,
beard is gone.
the beard has gone. Yeah, less said about that, the better. Yes, and drinky poos last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh dear. Oh well, never mind. Right, okay, let's get straight to it then. As I say, we've only got the two this week, so it might be a slightly shorter show, but plenty to discuss. Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 2. First thoughts from you all, well, you two, as usual. Jace, do you want to start us off? What was your thoughts on today?
Yeah, I thought it could easily be a trap game for us, coming in riding a wave after the Champions League and come in and maybe you relax a little bit. But it was good to see we did. I think Villa sort of surprised me and wanted to play the ball on the ground a lot more and not sit back as much. They had a lot of possession, especially in the first half. They actually had more than we did up until about the 30-minute mark. So really, I think a really good game for us. We were pretty. I think we had a pretty good game plan going in, and we executed it well. And I think Theo out on the left was really good. I was excited to do that and be able to cut inside on his right. And then we had Joel Campbell out on the right, which I think he's continuing to impress and make a name for himself in this team. So really sort of over pleased, and that's the kind of performance that you really want to see out of a side top of the league is, do the things you have to do very well and do the small things, and they'll take care of themselves. So it was good to see us put in a good, consistent performance throughout. And I don't think it was our greatest game ever. It's not one of those games where you look back and you say, "Wow, like this is the way to do it." But it was a very solid game, and we went in and, like I said, did what we had.
Good points, and there's plenty to drill down into certainly. Tom, what was your sort of summary of today? What was your thoughts? Anything that leaped out at you?
It was really the perfect performance after a midweek match. It was important that we scored early because having a midweek game and playing the exact same team means that if into the second half and quite late on where we're still needing a goal, we're not going to have the best energy reserves left after a midweek match. So getting the early goal for a penalty and then the second and all in the first half was perfect, and we had that buffer that we could sit back on and defend if we needed to. But Villa never really offered a real threat. They were quite poor. They were always on the offensive, but there was no real cutting edge and no real verve to their play and no finishing, and they weren't clinical in what they did. So I was always confident the 3 points would be ours.
Happy with the lineup when you saw it? Anything you would have changed from midweek?
I was happy with it. I thought there might have been a couple more rested for next week, seeing as we got City. I thought Ozil might have got a rest, or Giroud might have got a rest, and Walcott gone up front. But no, I was happy with the lineup. They seemed fine playing on the pitch. It was just nice to go for a game without getting any injuries, however rare that seems to be. But no, I was reasonably happy.
Don't jinx it. They've got to get on the team bus yet. I can guarantee somebody will roll their ankle. Jace, just looking at the coming into the game, I was touched on it there with Tom. Tom, Christ, there's so many people with T names.
Oh, don't do that.
Sorry, with touching on it with Tom about the team there. What's your kind of thoughts with regards to what we came up against today? We'll touch on how poor Villa were, but did you have any sort of trepidation about this game? Was with the potential banana skin, the travelling from Olympiacos, did that ever enter your mind as we sort of got underway?
It absolutely did. Last night, I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't actually put it in the group. I actually typed it out and then deleted it. But I was just thinking, like, this is a game that traditionally in the last few years has been an appeal force that we've slipped on, where we've taken our foot off the gas after a big result that we had to have, and we thought we were into the next match. And I think we came in with the right mentality, which is what you need for the championship side, is to understand that there are no rests, there are no breaks. It doesn't matter that Villa is bottom of the table. We need to put in a good performance and play to our standard and not play down to theirs, which I think we've been guilty of doing, especially on the road from time to time against smaller teams. So the mentality is really promising to see, and a performance like that. Even a few weeks ago, I think it was after the West Brom match, and I sat here on the radio and said, it looks like we may be done for the title challenge. And, I'm glad I was wrong with that because I do think we're in a good position now, and we've turned that bad form around. And yeah, we've had some injuries, but players are coming back and stepping up where they should, and it's good to see that we do have that mentality, because it's going to come up really big over this Christmas break of some really tricky fixtures.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a busy old period of time. I know you've got some stats for later on, Jay. So what we'll do is we'll go through the game itself, and then we'll come back to those. Tom, let's sort of start with the significant incidents then, shall we say? Agent Hutton. He's out in force. He was exemplary for us again today, as he always is. Weird penalty decision. Am I the only person, I'm probably not, but am I the only person that thinks that was a decision that was put in the ear of the referee by somebody watching the game, not the linesman?
I'm not sure. First of all, on Hutton, I can't stand the guy. So
He is dog, isn't he? He really
as
is.
Alan Davis put perfectly in the FA Cup final pod they did, it was nailed on yellow card sort of guy. He's always going to get a yellow, but I don't think he did in this game actually. But no, I can't stand the guy. But it was strange. And after the game, because I did watch on the end on Super Sunday, and Graham Souness was saying that the ref caused confusion in the mind of the players. And I was thinking, isn't it better to take a moment and get the right decision than make a snap decision but cause less confusion? I couldn't really understand where he was going with that point. But I thought it was a penalty. Stonewall, Walcott got in front of him, and Hutton got him down. So I'm happy with the decision, and I think refs should take a moment and take a step back, and if they need to take a couple of seconds to make that decision, as long as they get it right, that's what they should do, and they should be praised for doing that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. By the way, we always use this term, and I've used it, so I'm not digging at you. Stonewall penalty. I want somebody to explain to me what that means.
It's a definite penalty.
I don't know why we have to bring a stone wall into it. I feel like it's like it's victimisation against walls. It's not right. It's just racist.
You're
anyway.
Wallaced?
You're what?
Wallaced?
Wallace?
Would that be it? Wallace? Yeah.
Wallace. Yeah.
Wallace?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the popular kids cartoon character there for a minute.
No. I was just thinking, how can it be a wooden picket fence penalty? Just a clear, beautiful, nice, simple penalty.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know.
Why can't we have a white picket fence penalty?
I don't know what a beautiful penalty is, but no, Tom, you're absolutely
With
spot on.
Perlow's penalty, that's a beautiful penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you though, Tom. You're spot on. I think I just thought that the linesman made no suggestion that he'd given it, and if anything, the referee was closer. It just seemed to me like we've had referees and linesmen wired up for what 18 months now, and you're telling me that none of these decisions are put in their ears. I think it's something.
Well, that's the first thing Guzan did. As soon as it was given, he looked over to the linesman, expecting
Exactly.
the linesman to be flagging. But
And the linesman had done nothing, no, and he only came to stand where they'd stand when the penalty's taken on the edge of the box. He only moved there like after the referee had pointed. So, I mean, who cares? It was the right call at the end of the day. But I just thought it was interesting that was given. Jace, the penalty put away by our new penalty taker supreme, Olivier Giroud. Danny's actually changed his name in tribute to Giroud. His name is Danny GFP, which well, I'll let you explain what those letters now stand for, shall I?
What was it? Giroud's fantastic. Is that
Giroud's fantastic performances.
Performances, yeah.
Yeah.
Giroud's fantastic performances, and shameless plug. But if you read my blog, my guest blog on the Bergie Blogs at the Bergie Blogs on Twitter, you'll realize that Olivier Giroud, while he may not be as consistent as everybody likes, he's an extremely good striker. I put him up there as the best hold-up striker in the world. I don't think there's any striker that's better at holding up the ball and linking up play with the midfield. I do think having him take the penalties is probably smart. It actually gives him some confidence. At some times, I think it was a very well taken penalty as well. Guzan dove the wrong way, and nobody knows the faults and flaws of Guzan better than I do as a U.S. men's national team fan. So, but good to see him, be able to take it, and he's stepping up with confidence, and you could see the focus in his eyes right before he took it, and he's getting to that point now where as fans, I think we're getting more confidence. And his run of games, what is it, like 9 goals in games now that he's started? So it's great to see him really starting to step up and find some more consistency. And I think one of the things that we've had troubles with in the past is being able to bring him in against teams that do sit back just a little bit, because as much as they played, they did have some times, Villa did, where they were very compact. And it's tough when you're a lone striker, trying to find the space and the correct movement to break away from 2 defenders who were bracketing you. So I think he stepped up today brilliantly, and a few people have said on Twitter that he's their man of the match, just with his play and the way he brought everybody, and he floated out wide, and the touch that he had on that ball from Nacho down the left side in the second half, to keep that in play and then flick it for himself to run onto. And that's something I don't think I've ever seen Giroud do, flick a ball on into space and have him run onto it, and he did a good job of it. So it's really good to see him starting to hit a stride in the good purple patch, because it's well-deserved. You can see the work that he puts in, and I think that's the big thing that we remember as fans is he may not score all the time, but you can always see that he's always working, always moving, always trying to find the space, or always trying to close the ball down and create tough situations for the opponents whenever they have the ball. So I think he's finally starting to get some of the plaudits he's always deserved.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of things in the chat. I always like to shout newbies, and I think there's a newbie here, Goonanelli86, who's from the States, Mid-Atlantic region in particular. He says, how about this weather? Can't believe it's mid-December. So greetings to the newbie there. And Jace, your blog has been very kindly, the link to it's been very kindly posted into the chat box by Danny. So if you want to have a read of that, please, people go and have a look. It's very, very good.
I want to thank the Giroud performances for posting that link. Thank you, GFP.
And also thank you to OG for getting that hastily put together indeed as well, because that was a very quick turnaround. Lots of debate in the chat room actually about that very same thing, and a lot of people are saying that that you're wrong and that he's not one of the best in the world and blah blah blah. I'm actually with you, Jace, I have to say, so I'm going to defend you on this one.
I'm not saying that he's the best goal scorer or the best out and out center forward, but at holding the ball up,
yeah, I
don't think there's anybody else that's better with his back to goal linking midfield play. So I respect everybody's opinions, but
and especially not in our system as well. That's the way you've got to look at it. Players play to systems differently than others. So no, I'm with you on that one. Always interesting having a good debate in the chat room there, guys. Tom, so 1-0 up, seemingly comfortable. Obviously, the penalty dispatched by Giroud, comfortable penalty. Decided to change sides, which is always good, keeps it fresh. Good finish, 1-0 up. That goal, indeed, we should just touch on the stat, which is very kindly given to us by Pete Kennelly, which is floating around up there. But that makes Giroud's 50th goal in the Premier League, and it took him 138 games. Only Thierry Henry and Ian Wright did it quicker. He actually did it a game earlier than Dennis did. And Robert Pires and Robin Van Persie also took a lot longer to get to 50 goals. Just touching on Giroud briefly, how important do you think he is to this period of time that we go into now over Christmas?
You could argue he's in the top 3 of our most integral players in the team. The people who highlight that Walcott could play up there, but the run of fixtures that we've got, he brings such a different dimension to our sides, and we highlight that repetitively, and we do that because it's a really important thing to talk about. As a passing team, a lot of teams don't expect the tactical switch for us to swing a ball into the box for Giroud to head and put into the goal, and that's going to be important when we come up against games like City, who have big, strong, muscly defenders, and he's going to have to use those qualities he has to outmuscle them and play and get the play moving. As Jason says, his hold-up play is excellent, and that'll be so incisive in how we're going to play our game throughout the Christmas period. Talking more on Giroud, complimenting him, that if, as I've said it before, if anyone can name, this is another debate for the chat, name a striker available that we could get in January that's better than him, I'll give you I'll give you money.
Don't open Pandora's box, Tom, for Christ's sake. We're only 11 minutes in or whatever it is. I take your point, though. I do take your point, though. Just sticking with you for a minute, so obviously 1-0 up. Looking comfortable, to be fair. Villa offered very little other than, well, free admission to their defence generally. But the second goal, kind of, would it be fair to say it came out of nowhere? Not so much the run of play, but a quick turnover in possession, the ball went back by Aaron Ramsey, suspicion of a foul, or, certainly Villa would have you believe so. Then Villa, let's be perfectly honest, completely shut off. And that man, Magic Mesut, pulling the strings once again, and we're 2-0 up. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't feel it was a foul. First of all, I thought it was one well. But the goal was excellent. It was, as Wenger said in the post-match conversation he had with I can't remember who the commentator was, but I don't really pay attention to them. So he was saying how it was exactly how we wanted to play, and that was a perfect, great play to counter-attack. And when a defence leaves 3 attackers on 1 defender, you can really say that this is a team that are going to be struggling down the bottom of the league. The pass from Walcott was excellent. And it was just typical that Ozil's going to lay it off for someone. He's not going to take the chance on it. He wants that assist record. He wants to have more assists in the team. And it's something that you see teams that have players that chance on. And although some may have scored, a lot would have missed, and for him to know to lay that off, so Ramsey has an easy chance to put away, it's great. And plus that doesn't only boost the confidence of Ramsey, it boosts more confidence of Ozil to keep that run going of how many assists it is and how many games. I think he's only missed 1 game in the last 15 or something where he's not got an assist in the match, and he's a credit to everything we have about our play, the passing, the movement, and the final finishing. And he's also just as important as we mentioned with Giroud in going forward through this next period of games.
Yeah, he's going to be vital, and as we said, the amount of games we've got, it's going to be very important. Touch wood that he doesn't get any injuries, and it was good to see him out there actually today after the twist of the ankle. And I think in training, I spied he had a little bandage type thing around his top of his groin or top of the thigh. So, yeah,
that's a new fashion thing, mate.
Is that what it is? Okay, it's the new French thing. Jace, I want to touch on Magic Mesut. Before the game, over here in the UK, you wouldn't have been treated to this gem, but
I've actually got the article up. I'm assuming you're talking about Mr. Moise.
That's the one. Yes. Would you like to? Or I mean, I could give you the quote, but he basically said that he's the jury's out and he has a lot to prove. Yeah, I'm just going to let you just go for gold, really.
There's a lot of people have said things sort of this, and I'm not trying to rip them off because it's the truest statement. But there's a reason why he's no longer a manager of a football club. Simple as that. The guy who thinks that Marwan Follett is probably better than Mesut Ozil may, I'm sure Tottenham would hire him. But yeah, they're just shut your face. That's all I have to say. Shut your face. It's somewhat like I don't know how to respond. It's so baffling to the guy that has I think I just saw this. He has twice as many assists as any other player in the Premier League this year. He's got 4 goals. You see how he hates and yeah, he's not he's not like your Sparkley who's just the engine is just always on. Just because, and I've said this so many times, I'm just getting so tired. The same as the Giroud debate. The guy's style is not what you in England are used to. It's not the high motor, always driving, always. He's so fluid in his movement, and he has a very languid style that works for him. And you can't try to project somebody else's style on him and then say he's not good because he doesn't have their style, but probably produce better results. I just it's you a lot of, and I'm not going to say all fans, but a lot of fans in England, it's more about the style of play than it is about the result of play. I can run around like a chicken with my head cut off on cocaine all freaking day, but it doesn't make me a good player if the end result isn't there. And the end result is there from Mesut Ozil, and people should just shut their mouth on him. Neil Ashton literally wrote an apology to him because he said I was wrong to say he's nicking a living because he's not. And when you get a guy like Neil Ashton to admit he's wrong, you're probably doing pretty right, because it's hard to get anybody in the press to admit that they've been wrong on anything in the past. So, yeah, the argument's just so old about him. Like, just get over it. The guy's he is a world-class player. He's one of the reasons why, after he was sold, I heard that Ronaldo actually went and talked to the president about, like, why are you getting rid of this guy? Like, he's one of the best players in the world, and you're just gonna ship him off? And I think we got him for a steal. I think £42 million was great for a player like Mesut Ozil. It's just, we've got to get over these preconceived notions of style of play and players having to have a certain work rate. Because if you actually watch his heat map and his work rate, he's all over the pitch. And I think he had a quiet first 30 minutes. I really do. But after that, he really picked it up, and it's when him and Ramsey combined that we're the most dangerous. And they did that really after, like I said, that 30-minute mark. I think before then they only had 3 pass combinations between each other. After 30-minute mark and between halftime they had up to 13. So it's one of those things that when those two are clicking, it's unreal what they can do. And Mesut Ozil, when he's got 3 yards and the ball at his feet and a runner, he's the most dangerous player in the world. Because we've also seen that he can finish. I think he would rather assist, though. But to me, when you give him any amount of space and a player running into some space, he's like a cobra striking. He's going to hit his target every time.
Yeah, I agree. And let's not forget as well that David Moyes, of course, the manager who built his team around Marrow and Fellaini. So, yes.
You're being really harsh. I really do.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm not. I'm really not. Obviously, he failed at United. There is no debate about it. But he did really well at Everton, and I commend everything he did at Everton because he really transformed that club. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, like you guys do. And in Spain, he was hated, as I know quite well. The fans told him very well, and I thought it was very brave for him, just like it has been for Gary Neville to go out to a foreign country and try and manage. And it's clearly not working. And as Eibar are beating Valencia right now, not going well for British managers in Spain at the moment. So. No. I just thought it was a very silly comment to come out with at this point. You know, if he had a few odd games and there was a debate, fine. But I just thought it was a really strange comment.
No, I think it was a strange comment as well. Oh, by the way, sorry, Arno, goal alert. Just saying.
Great, thanks. In case you were all tuning in for that. Also, there was one other piece of punditry in the UK which, Jace, you might not have heard, that actually was fantastic. Graham Souness, who I must admit I'm very hot and cold with. Sometimes I can't stand him, sometimes I love him. And at one point, the main commentator came. He said, "Oh, it looks like Jack Grealish is getting ready to come on," and Graham Souness went, "Who?" I just thought that was quality. Because I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Apart from the fact that he likes a drink and wears his socks around his ankles, Jack Grealish is absolutely average. Bang average. And the hype around this kid is, I cannot get my head around it. He's very, very average footballer.
You compare him to a lot of the other youngsters around, he's nothing.
Oh, God, no, he's no Nathan Redmond. But I did think it was really funny from Souness, just like, who? So that was fantastic. And then he went on to justify it by saying, well, what's he actually done? And I was sat there going, yes, absolutely. Anyway,
he runs around, so everybody in England loves him because he runs.
Of course, yeah. He gets hammered on holiday, therefore he's a lad, so we have to like him. Anyway, let's have a talk about Aaron Ramsey. Jace, I'll come to you in a second, but I want to start with Tom. So he's come into the side now. I think there's a bit of a misconception or a misunderstanding among some of the fans that suddenly now he's in the central role, that he's getting, obviously he's got 2 goals in 2 games, that he's providing assists, that his engine is there. All of those are facts that you cannot dispute those. the thing that I want to ask you to speak about is we've changed our style of play to when we had Cazorla and Coquelin to accommodate a Ramsey, a Flamini, or a Flamsey, as I call it, our partnership. Have you noticed the change? Because to me, it's very clear, but I don't see that many people picking up on it.
I've noticed the what I've noticed is there's a lot more pressure now on our back four than there was first. That's the first thing I'll say.
Yep.
Because we're playing quite in more of a risky style. Because Flamini has the tendency to push up as well, and he's not a Coquelin who will sit in and do the job. He does that as well, but not as well, and he also finds himself in the other half. I love Ramsey in the middle, and that's no detriment to Cazorla because he's going to be an absolutely huge miss. But if you're going to go into the Ramsey Cazorla about how the styles change, it's completely different. You'll see a lot of people, and you summed it up brilliantly in the chat and saying Santi would have been the player who played Ozil through for that second goal, and then Ozil would have laid it off to Walcott, who played the pass, and Walcott probably would have scored that goal. And that's how the play works, because Santi will drop in and play the game in the middle and will be like a conductor and decide where the play is going to move and decide where he's going to pass, and that was where the play will evolve from. But with Ramsey just runs and runs and runs, and how we were just ironically talking about how average Jack Grealish is, and we just like him because he runs about. Well, Aaron Ramsey does run about, but he has substance to what he does. His passing is excellent. How much it's come on from the days when we used to just moan at him all the time and saying you need to stop doing the hard stuff, and now he's really simplified his game. He still does try to do the more exquisite and harder touches, but because he's more experienced and more evolved as a player, he does pull it off so much more often than he does normally. I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on the style of play, because I'm sure you can talk about it better than I can.
No, I think you make some excellent points. In fact, I'll come to Jace on this one as well. Jace, I think that there's a thing about football fans in general, and whether it's not just an Arsenal fan thing, but there's a misconception in football fans that if you praise one player, that automatically means you hate every other player in their position. And I've been accused of this a number of times, saying, "Oh, you just love Cazorla and you don't see what Ramsey does," and that's absolutely complete rubbish. I absolutely love all of our players. I even love Nelson Vivas, for Christ's sake, but it's for me, it's just having that understanding of understanding football more and just going, okay, yeah, what Ramsey's doing is fantastic. There is no player, probably in the league, that has the engine Aaron Ramsey has. The guy is just absolutely, he's a machine. What my concern was, is a bit like what Tom said, is when we play better sides at Aston Villa, that Aaron maybe now has to look at it and think, right, I'm going to have to drop deeper, and maybe some of those goals that he gets will be affected by that, and that's when people have to not judge him. While he's scoring goals, everyone will be absolutely delighted. If he goes on a run of 5 or 6 games and he doesn't score goals, we don't want the fan base to turn on him again, do we?
No, well, we don't. At the same time, I think our style of play is somewhat different, and Tom, like you said, our back four is exposed more, not because of Ramsey, but because of Flamini. I think Flamini getting forward is part of the issue, and he loves to come up and sneak up with a little sneaky goal against teams, and he'll just all of a sudden end up in a box and get like sort of almost like a poacher's goal. I think that's more of the issue rather than Ramsey. We've seen when Arteta is in the side beside Ramsey a few years ago that we can protect the back four while Ramsey gets forward as well and play that true box-to-box role. And I do want to say the counter-attack today for that second goal, that was a box-to-box midfielder's goal.
Yep.
He started the play and he finished the play. He started the play about, I think it was like 6 to 7 yards outside of our own penalty area, and then he got forward again. That's what you like to see. With Santi, I honestly feel, and Tom and Chris, you agree with him, talking about Santi would play the ball to Walcott. I actually feel like Santi wants to play a more possession-based, so he would actually slow up play a little bit on those counters and play maybe a ball, sort of a flatline ball to the side or to this, out to the wide areas, almost flat with him, as opposed to driving forward. And there's nothing wrong with that, with playing a possession style, keeping the ball more, moving it up at a little slower pace. But I just feel like he's a much more patient player and I said this in the chat as me and Chris were sort of going back and forth in our WhatsApp group, is I feel like Santi's a more patient player and wants to play that sort of the nice final ball like Arsene wants us to play, almost like when we used to try to walk it into the goal. I feel like that's more to Santi's game, where I feel like with Ramsey and there's much more initiative. And there's much more urgency. And when Santi's in, he says, let's be patient, let's let the goal come to us, as opposed to Ramsey saying, let's go grab the goal, let's make the goal happen. So I think that, to me, is the biggest. I don't know if it's a huge style of play. I sort of blame more of the defensive frailties in our back for being more exposed on Flamini than I do Ramsey, because really that's why Flamini was brought back in. And I said it earlier, I think Cazorla sort of lost that on a spot, because I really want to see the Ram-Cock combination whenever Coquelin comes back, because I honestly think that is where we would have the most balance, between we can play counter-attacking like we did a little bit today and score those great goals with Ramsey. We can play more possession-based with those two. Coquelin's got a great diagonal ball that he can play to wide spaces when we have Joel and Walcott out wide like we did today. So I'm much more interested to see that. I love Santi and I love what he's done for the club. I just feel like right now what suits us best is a more urgent style of play, probably than what Santi would provide us, because he wants to play the ball on the ground, to feet, try to control the game a little bit more, and let the build up of the play win out over as much as Ramsey going out and trying to just force something to happen.
Yeah, I love the fact you've turned the phrase ramcock, or as Pixel just put, cock ram is even better. But yeah, I tell you what excites me, or what excites me is the potential of
Careful.
a fit Jack Wilshere, which I know is a bit of an anomaly, but hopefully, fingers crossed, a Jack Ram would be also quite interesting. As a combination, and certainly as something to rotate, and it's something to look at.
Yeah, the one thing I am starting to get concerned with is it seems like Ramsey seems to be flying into some tackles a little more recklessly than he used to in the past.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I think he's Wenger said, hey, we need you to be a little more defensive. And I think he's equating defensive with reckless sometimes.
Around, yeah.
Because I think it was Olympiacos. He got that really early yellow card, and sort of just kept going at people, not with not the most intelligent sort of style of tackles and play there, and that to me is somewhat worrying. That he could be a slight liability in that way, because it seems like some of his tackles are just really rash.
Yeah, I agree.
He has a tendency to go in with 2 feet, which is really worrying. Yeah.
Do you know what I think that is, though? I think that's protection. If you have an injury like Aaron had, and I know 3 people, in fact, in my personal life that have had that injury that I've played with, they all tackle the same way. There's an element of that you look, the first thing in your mind is, I'm going to protect myself whilst winning the ball, and when you go in like with that 2 feet or with that kind of way of tackling is a little bit of, I'm going to take this ball and I'm going to play the game fairly, but I'm going to make sure that I protect myself as well. And I think there's a psychology element of that is probably a better way of looking at it, but I think that will affect how people people move forward. So
would you rather have Wilshere in than Flam?
Not right now, because I think Flamini is doing a good job. I think my only concern is,
I don't think he had a bad game today. I think
he did very well. He did very well. I think what Jace's point is the bit that worries me is that this new sort of hybrid Flamini since White Hart Lane is that he's got the taste for it, and whilst against Sunderland and Aston Villa and even Olympiacos, that's fine. If you play like that against Manchester City, we could be in all sorts of trouble. And I think it's knowing the games that you can be slightly more reckless in how you attack, and knowing games where you have to sit in and be patient, and in a weird way, playing Ramsey on the right-hand side of midfield for all this time, it might actually be a masterstroke, because it might actually have made him realise how much of a defensive responsibility he's got, even when he plays in the centre. His first thought now is, hopefully, I need to get back and protect behind me. So, we shall see. But one thing's for sure, he deserves an awful lot of credit. He's come straight back from this injury, straight into the side when we need him most. and he's performing and he's driving us forward. So, fair play to him, and let's hope it carries on. Happy birthday, Sandy Cazorla, by the way. I still love you. Right, let's move it on to the defensive side of things. We didn't really look at under any pressure, particularly in this game. It would be fair to say. I mean, I've had toilet trips that were more forceful than Villa's attack, but they had a little spell where we were put under a bit of pressure. Tom, I don't know about you. I never really felt at any point that Mertesacker and Koscielny were unduly bothered, but they had a good game, and that pairing seems to be getting to that gelled type again, doesn't it? They really do look like they're playing at the top of their game again.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, Koscielny, he had a bit of a tendency today to move out of defence more. He was in the opposite half quite a lot this game, and I don't know if that's a bit of a negative thing, or it is really the confidence that one of them can go forward and that the other three are quite happy to just be themselves and be able to defend if they are caught out. I mean, you draw comparisons between us and Aston Villa, and you saw our second goal where we had 3 players on just one. You won't see that with us. There's such a communicational strength between all 4 of them, and they're in such a synchronicity with each other about when to go, when to stay, when to cover someone, when to sweep across. And we used to have issues where you'd have such huge gaps between either our centre halves or the right back and the right centre back, or the left back and the left centre back. There used to be huge gaps between those players, and we've certainly tightened that up, and now they're moving more across the pitch as a unit. The problem with that was today is right at the end when you saw Bakuna got in, there was a huge gap on that right-hand side where Hector had pulled inside to back up Mertesacker. So in that case, you could probably bring that more down to our wingers having more defensive responsibility, especially Walcott. Walcott has a bit of a tendency to not come back. Joel Campbell, not so much. I've been impressed with his work rate at getting back. And obviously when Sanchez comes back, his work rate is unrivaled. So I'm certainly confident with how we're playing defensively, and it's a good partnership. And I was impressed with, I can't remember who it was. It was an article in Sky Sports. It might have been Souness, about how that Koscielny is the best defender in the league and Company just isn't consistent in playing.
Yeah, I agree. At the risk of opening the big box marked Company, I'll skip over that, but you know my thoughts on him. Jace, we should also touch on a record breaker. Petr Cech moves past David James's record of clean sheets in the Premier League with this one today. Wasn't really unduly troubled, but once again, just a tribute to him that we never really feel like we're in any concern when he's in goal, do we?
Well, there was one. He was a little flappy on one of those balls into the box today.
There was one. I must admit,
he was a little flappy. But other than that, yeah, I think he was spectacular today. I think there was one shot that they had. I want to say it was Bakuna's sort of curler that just went over the bar, where I think he may have been just a yard out of position on that. But I think you can see now the confidence that the defense has and whoever's behind them. Because we've seen a lot of one-on-one breakaways this year that in years past have been easy goals that this year Cech has saved. And the confidence that he instills going forward to his defense, and then his defense knowing that okay, well, we still have Cech, like maybe we can make a little bit more hasty decision or jump into this knowing that Cech is behind us. I think he's one of those players who I think he'll be with us for a while. Probably 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6 more years. So it's really good to see that he'll be there, instilling confidence in players, and just really, he's such a good calming presence for our defense. I think that's one thing is in the past we've seen Koscielny sort of be a little tense and jumpy at times because he knew Szczesny or Espina or Fabianski, Manuel Almunia was behind him, and they knew that they had to be the stopper. I think now you see the confidence just oozing from Koscielny, who to me is probably one of the top 3 center backs in the world. And you see, Mertesacker still very positionally sound, but he just seems to have a little bit more of a confidence now behind him as well. So I think what Cech does is when your defenders have more confidence that they're protected from behind, that that confidence just continues to go forward throughout the team. And like I said, he's such a calming presence, great guy. He had a great, he just did Toxicity on his YouTube channel on the drums. He's a great drummer. It's really it's so different in settling for a fan to know that we have such a great, confident, calm presence in goal, which we as Arsenal fans have not had for almost a decade now, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. Be interesting just on Koscielny. It'd be interesting to see that if you look at, for example, John Stones is being talked about as a £50 million player. Now, granted, you've got to take probably 10, 15 million off of that because he's English, because that's ridiculous. But even a £30 million defender, I wonder what that would make Koscielny, because there is a shortage in world football. Tom, you would know this as well, that there's not that many really top-class central defenders in the world right now, which is why so many teams can't buy them. And I know people talk about Varane and Laporte and people like that, but largely they're unproven yet. And I think Koscielny is, as you rightly say, Jace, is the longer it goes, I think the more consistent he gets, and he learns from mistakes, which is what I really like about him. He doesn't seem to be a guy that, that generally will repeat the same mistake several times. Yes, I know before everyone says it, he turns his back. Well, okay. We've all
show me another defender who doesn't.
Exactly.
Show me another defender who doesn't. You got to protect the jewels.
They're out of a concussion, mate. I can't.
And if somebody says Ryan Shawcross, I'm going to throw my computer out the window.
I will say today, one of the things that I noticed is as I was watching the game, I just had 4-4-2 stat zone up on the match. One of the interesting things that I noticed was if you look at Flamini's position defensively, almost every single time he was almost directly in front of Mertesacker.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from him knowing, okay, Mertesacker's he's positionally sound, but he's not the quickest. Let me make sure that I can cover him because I know Koscielny will be able to make up with pace and position. And it's interesting just to see that dynamic on the pitch when Koscielny is on there as opposed to Gabriel. I think if Gabriel had played today with Mertesacker, you would have seen Flamini probably more centrally, almost playing like a back five, within 3 or 4 yards of the back four. But he was able to just sort of sit in front of Mertesacker and protect Mertesacker and let Per have the best position while Flamini could sort of shield him from the pace and speed. So just really interesting to see that, especially with the form that Koscielny's been in.
It's partnerships as well, isn't it? Like we've said thousands of times, if it's players develop partnerships and they develop links, and once again, just touching back to the Ozil Ramsey partnership, let's not forget they had a lovely time together when Ramsey got all those goals. So sometimes players just click when they play together. So
but let's not forget that Ozil was nicking a living then.
Yes, indeed he was. Yes, and I'm still waiting for him to deliver the takeaway I asked for last night. Poor, very poor. Tom, I just want to very briefly touch. Behave yourself. I just want to touch briefly on the wide players, quote unquote. Oh, fuck off, Spurs. I just want to touch on the wide players moving forwards. Walcott was played sort of wide today as he was against Olympiacos. Joel Campbell's being preferred to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and for my money, absolutely rightly so at the moment. Going into this Manchester City game, which is looming, I think is it actually it's our next game, isn't it?
Next Monday.
There you go. So heading into that, subject to everyone being fit, would you be inclined to stick with Theo wide and Joel Campbell wide, or would you be more inclined to sort of pack the midfield and put another body in the centre?
I'm more in the case of if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think we're playing well with the team we have right now. There is talk, and I can't believe that it's even being suggested, but Wenger said he wasn't sure, but Sanchez could be back. I don't understand how on earth that would be a realistic view. And even if he was back in time, I wouldn't start him. I think that'd be so risky that it'd be ridiculous to do it. But we're playing well with the wingers. I mean, Walcott's come in and we know all his stuff on how he wants to play up front. But Giroud's in such great form, he knows he's not going to get into that position. So he's doing well wide. The shot, I have to say, he had today that went in was an excellent shot, even though it was called off.
Yeah,
it was an excellent finish. And it's not something you see from him, a shot from outside the box that curls in the corner. So that was nice that he's got that in his locker just to see it, whether it counted or not. But no, all I have to say about Walcott negatively is that he needs to get back more. As I've mentioned that previously, his defensive side of things needs a little bit of work, but that's probably because he's so used to be playing up front at the moment. Campbell, I've been really impressed with. He's really taken his chance. His work rate is excellent. He's not world class. There's no denying that, but he's certainly come in and done the job that he was told to do, and that's all he can do. He can only play to the best of his ability, and if that's not world class, that's it. But it's better than what Oxlade-Chamberlain is doing. You really saw when Oxlade came on the real fragility about his play, the real bit of poor touch, poor decision in passing. There was a couple of passes he played to Bellerin that were a bit off, and Bellerin had to backtrack and get them. That'll come with time. He's come back from a bit of a layoff, and it's certainly good. Jason, do you have anything on Campbell?
Yeah, I really think, and this sort of plays into the Ox equation as well. But just the fact that you've seen what players can do when given some opportunities. We're so quick to slate people because, oh, they only scored against Benfica in the Emirates Cup and it doesn't count. Little things like this, as opposed to an actual real competition where something's on the line, and what players can do with real minutes in impactful games. I just really think that with Campbell and as somebody who's in the CONCACAF region and who has to play him, obviously he's caused tons of trouble for the center backs for the U.S. men's national team as they play Costa Rica quite often, and it's just one of those things that I don't think it's the fact that he was ever really as bad as we thought he was. He just didn't have the minutes. When you're not playing in games, and this is for any level, when you're not playing in games, you're not going to be as sharp. You're not going to be as crisp. You're not going to have that great decision making. And I think that's what we're seeing with Ox. And let's not forget what Ox has done for us in the past when he was playing on that sort of that stretch in the central midfield role where Ramsey is now. He was actually a decent little player for us. He was making better decisions and had crisper passing because he had minutes. And I just think we're so quick to jump on people because they come back from an injury and within 2 games they're not on form. Well, that's an unrealistic expectation. The more minutes people get in game action, that does so much for a player because it gives them confidence that the manager believes him. I mean, I think we need to keep playing Oxlade-Chamberlain because I do think he'll come out of it. I'm a big fan of his. I'm probably an Ox apologist, but I do think Campbell has definitely played a much better game than I thought any of the fans thought he ever could. And I think part of that's because he's actually been given some minutes and some opportunity. And when you see what that does to a player, maybe we as fans need to be a little less quick to just write somebody off because they've played 300 minutes and they haven't scored a goal yet. When really you're probably actually looking at something closer to 700 minutes before you really get into that true form and decision making and can make those quick decisions on the fly that you need to make in a game.
Yeah, it comes down to confidence as well, doesn't it? I mean, nobody is saying Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't Arsenal quality. I don't think. Some people might, I guess, but I'm with you, Jace. I think the kid has got a lot of talent. The problem is he's not a kid anymore. That's the problem. He's, people are looking at him now and saying he now has to take his chance. And he was in form at the start of the season, and sometimes the injury can derail you, and sometimes little things can just affect you. And the truth is, Joel Campbell has pushed his way ahead and is in the side, rightly so, whether you like or dislike. That's really not for us to say. And you play your best players in form, and I'm sure Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain will get games. The idea of him going on loan, that ship has well and truly sailed. I think that idea is silly at this stage, if I'm honest. He's far too old and developed as an Arsenal player to go on loan now, I think. But I do agree with what Danny said. Maybe he missed the boat going on loan when he first came. I think that would have been the time to have sent him out, possibly to get him some experience. But hey ho, he's there. He's part of us, and we as Arsenal fans, of course, I say we, not particularly us three, but I'm pretty sure there's a large amount of social media people. They have to hate on someone, don't they? We can't just support our players no matter what, can we? Never mind. Okie dokie. Right, I just want to before we invite questions, which we will do, in fact. Tom, do you want to keep an eye? I'll open the floodgates for questions now. But I just want to ask you guys now, heading into the Manchester City game, which whether we've got Alexis or not, there seems to. I vaguely remember he was injured when we played them last year, and he came back and made the bench. I think there's a symmetry in this, but going into that game, I want to know from you, if we were to draw or in worst case scenario be beaten, do you think all the positive things that are coming out from the fan base around the club, does that take a massive nosedive, or do we just carry on regardless and keep winning? Essentially, what I'm asking you is it a must-win game? Tom, what do you reckon?
I wouldn't call it a must-win. I'd call it a must not lose game. As long as we don't lose that game, because the thing about losing it wouldn't have been such a travesty if we'd have got results against Norwich and against West Brom. Those games will be massively highlighted if we don't gain points against Manchester City. If we had won those games, we'd be 3 points clear at the top if Leicester win tomorrow. So it's unquestionable that we cannot lose that game. I worry about it because I know the quality that Manchester City have, and I think that their depth compared to ours is obviously being highlighted right now, although they're not being very convincing at the moment, which is positive. They only just nicked the game against Swansea, and they haven't come up with recent results, haven't been that great for them. They had an excellent performance in the Champions League, but only until very late on to really turn the tap on. And for me, I think we can win. So I think we've got to go there with the mindset of we're going to win this and do it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Jace, anything different to that?
I don't want the players to think that it's a can't lose game, because you go in trying to not lose as opposed to trying to win. And that's a very different mentality. And when you play to not lose a game, you typically lose that game. So if you're a player, don't listen to Tom. It's a must-win. Although it's early to say that it's a must-win this early. It's really early for that, like really early. I mean, we're not even to Christmas yet. But at the same time, what it could do for confidence in the rest of the year could be massive, because we could really sort of set City back in their title hopes. And I think, honestly, they're probably our biggest competition at this point for the title. As much as I love what Leicester's doing and the success that they're having, it's just really hard to say that that they're going to be able to continue that throughout the years. Their squad's not really has the depth that a lot of the other ones have in quality. So I do think it's a big 6-pointer, because like I said, we can really sort of start to put Man City hopefully in the rear window. But at the same time, if we come out trying to not lose, that's typically when we've had really big problems this year. So I would tell the players, yeah, it's a must-win. Like, we have to win this game at all costs.
Yeah, and I think we all agree that we all want Leicester to beat Chelsea tomorrow, irrespective of the fact we go second. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, 100%. Okay, we'll have a brief laugh at Man United. That's better. You have to do it, don't you? You have to do it. We should almost have our own sort of weekly segment of laughing at Man United, or indeed Chelsea.
We wouldn't stick to our parameter, so there's no point really.
No, that's true. And all those people that think we should have a different manager, just think what we could have managing us at the moment. Christ on a bike. Anyway, questions. Tom, let's start with one from you. You can give that one to Jace if you like.
Oh, Jesus, I didn't mean to copy all that into the chat then. That's
wow.
Jason, so we got for Carl Walker says, if Jack is back in January, do we still need to buy someone?
Where are we going to buy another goalkeeper? No, we don't need another. No, yeah. Sorry, Carl. I'm being an asshole. No, I really think that we probably still do need to buy somebody, because even if Jack comes back, he's not a true defensive. Hang on. He's not a true sort of holding midfielder that can protect the back four. He wants to get forward more. Wenger said he wants him to score more goals. Jack said he wants to score more goals. So I still think we need to buy somebody who's going to come in and be able that wants to just sit in front of that back four and continue to win the ball and push it forward. I think that's the most important thing. Is I love Jack. He's on most of my kits actually, because I love I love a good fag after a win at a nightclub, but I do still think we need cover, and we don't need to continue to try to play players out of position because, like with Ramsey, we're seeing that when you play in the position that you're most suited for, the success that comes from that.
Cool.
Good
Chris, do you want me
stuff.
to ask you one, yeah?
I'll take Prakash's if that's all right, because I can answer it very
Yeah,
quickly.
go for it.
So he wanted to know, Prakash9 says, if Serge Gnabry is recalled from his loan in January, does that mean that the chance of signing a new striker is all but none next month? I'll answer it simply, Prakash. It's a season-long loan, so he won't be recalled. So that's not going to happen. End of story. Same with Carl Jenkinson. Season-long loans. The only loan deals that we can terminate early, or indeed are terminated early, are the ones like Dan Crowley, for example, who went on a very short-term deal to Barnsley, and it was agreed between the two clubs that loan deal would be terminated. So we can't go back to a club. We pay an awful lot of money to loan players out. We'll often say, right, we'll contribute towards their wages, for example, but the other club will take up some of that wage. So it makes no sense for us to go back and go, oh, actually, we've made an error, because then the club would want to be compensated for losing a player, because then they have to replace that player in their squad. So as best as my knowledge goes, those players will be on loan for the rest of the season.
Fair enough. That was quite an easy question, if you think. Well, I know where you took that.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I'd put some flesh on the bones, because it's a topic that comes up in this chat every time we do it. Actually, a lot of people always say, "Oh, let's get Jenko back," and you can't. So just put it to bed, I guess. But yeah, some people don't know the rules, and I had to look it up myself. So yeah, it's worth passing it on.
Go on, Jace. I'll give you this one because I know how much you love the guy. Everything rude, everything has said. Is Ozil leading the PFA Player of the Year at the moment?
As often as I speak to the players in the EPL, yeah, he is. I've spoken to all of them. He is leading by a considerable margin over Jack Grealish.
Over Jack? Are you sure?
Oh yeah, they love him. They love him. His pace and power is something all the players really respect. So yeah, it's Mesut Ozil by far and first, followed distantly by Jack Grealish.
Fair enough.
I'd love to know
Chris.
Aston Villa's thoughts on Jack Grealish. By the way, I'd love to know what
He's
their fans
amazing.
think of him. Do they genuinely think that he's a good talent, or do they think he's a bit overhyped? Anyway, that's for another day. Carry on.
I bet they think he's better than Jack Wilshere.
Oh, yeah, yawn.
I'll give if you thought he was a debutant at ABW Goonanelli 86. Chris, do you think Ospina and Debussy could be sold or loaned in January?
Yes, I'll take this one. Natalie, I also owe an apology because I called her a man. Sorry, I do apologise, Natalie. I didn't realise you were a lady. Whoops. Yeah, that's my credibility out the window, as if I had any anyway. Do I think they can be... Truthfully, I think one of the two. I think from what I can gather, David Ospina is, I wouldn't say happy being number two, but I think he strikes me as a character who's content to just sort of see out the season, see what happens, and then maybe look to move on if he's not getting games at the end of the season. He doesn't strike me as a stamp your feet type of I want to move in January type of player. Also, when I say there's no incentive, I don't mean that obviously all players want to play, but he hasn't got a European Championships to get game time for, which leads me nicely on to Debussy, who probably does have an incentive to move on. I really like Mathieu Debuchy. I think he's been criminally underrated in the past few months by Arsenal fans because he had the injury last season, and he did really set back his career to the extent that Hector Bellerin whipped in and took his place. I'm not for a minute suggesting Hector Bellerin doesn't deserve his place, because he does. But who better to have than a full French international as that cover? The problem is Debussy does need games. He's currently not in Didier Deschamps' final plans at all. In fact, he's probably behind three other players in that right back role for France at the moment. And he's going to want to play. And I know John was talking on the last show that Roma are quite keen. There's three teams in France that are keen to take him on loan as well. And ultimately, it will come down to Arsene Wenger and the player. And Arsene Wenger does have a history of letting players move on if they're not playing. So I could see it happening. My only concern is if we do let him go, That means we've now got to switch Callum Chambers back to right back cover again when he's just got used to playing centrally and is just being sort of blooded into the central defensive midfield position. So it's a bit of a worry. But if a player's not happy and they're not getting games, I wouldn't be against letting them go. But I would like us to see some sort of cover brought in to put in place there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jason, I'm going to reword a question. Carl Walker asked about if we could recall Akpom from his loan, but we've covered about recalling loans. But I have a question for you about Akpom. He scored at the weekend, and that's his 4th goal so far this season. What sort of future does he have at the club?
Hard to predict. I really like what I've seen from him though, and I think the loan spells are good for him right now. And hopefully he's going to be one of those players that maybe we see like the Ox was early in his career, where he starts to be blooded by some substitute appearances and then some spot starts against smaller teams in the league to give what will at that point be an older Olivier Giroud. And have him sit and sort of watch how Giroud, because I think he's a nice, tall, physical player, similar to Giroud, a little pacier than Giroud, which isn't hard to be. But I think it's just one of those things that I'm interested to see, like next season, the preseason. Granted, if hopefully he stays healthy, knock on wood. But I think in the next couple of years we'll be able to make a really good determination on if he has a future here or not. Like I said, I think it's just about getting him some prime minutes and some actual meaningful games for us to be able to tell if he's got the quality that we need or not.
Fair enough. Chris, you want any more?
I've got a question actually. I wanted to ask you guys briefly. If we were to, and again, I don't really want to get into transfer stuff because it could go on forever. But if we were to bring in a player in January on loan who was a quote unquote unfashionable player, who I'll put Adlan Rabiot into this conversation because there's a lot of talk about him, and I know there's all this talk about Ruben Neves, which I don't see personally, but who knows, I could be wrong. But let's just say we went for a Rabiot type character, so a second choice for the club he's currently at, probably a loan deal. Would you be happy with that? And more importantly, would you think the fan base would be happy with that? I'll ask you both that. Tom, what do you reckon?
The fan base, I don't think, would be too happy on the majority, just from my experience of knowing the fan base quite well. But if Rabiot came in, I'd be happy that we brought someone in who can cover. He's not coming in to start, and if he did come in, I'm assuming it would be a loan. I can't see us buying the guy. But I think the fan base is going to be looking for someone who is a guaranteed starter, and to get someone like that in January is incredibly difficult. There's so many things that you can talk about with transfers and the ramifications of a transfer. So when you buy someone, it's not just a case of that's it's done. To buy someone, there has to be someone who's firstly available. Secondly, the team that you buy it from has to have enough time to replace that player, and then you have to then find out if that player is ultimately good enough for the squad, and if he's not, you're not going to go for him. And secondly, the players that are good enough for a team like Arsenal, at the moment we're in a stage where all the best players are at the top clubs. There are instances, as you spoke about on the pod on Thursday, which people should go listen to because it was a very good one in my opinion. Krishariak is an option, and I'd like to see him come in. Whether we get him, it would be over 25 million, so it'd be hard. Yeah, that's my thoughts really.
Yeah, Jace, what do you reckon to that?
And I've mentioned sort of off the line, and I'll put it out there. Even though he's cup tied, I still wouldn't mind seeing a guy like Esteban Cambiaso come in, an experienced player from Argentina. Has a very good head on his shoulders, to protect a back four, and that kind of player. I feel like we get Olympiacos right out of the Champions League now. So I think they'd be more willing to let somebody go. I don't think he's on a really long-term contract, so we could easily loan him in for the second half of the season, and just have somebody who understands they're not going to be number one, but can still do a job when they come in, and we wouldn't lose too much, because I think that would probably be I'll probably prefer Cambiasso over Flamini at this point, even though Flamini had a great game today. We're not taking anything away from him. But something like that. I think the other thing is I'm sort of getting antsy to see a Christian Bielik come in and see what he can do at this level on some maybe some sub levels or something, and come in a few different times off the bench for a few minutes. And he's a player that I'm very interested to see, as I don't watch a lot of the youth games, but very interested to see, since we brought him in last year, what he can do and how he's progressed.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen a little bit of Bielik in the past few weeks months, I should say, and he does strike me as a player that's growing more with every game, and the fact that he's playing centre half for the under-21 side, I think, is a good thing, because I think what what Jonker probably is doing under Wenger's instruction is trying to toughen him up and play him as a centre half so that he's ready to come into the sort of holding midfield role. I remember Coquelin was deployed at right back several times in his youth career, so that might be a reason. But I think Dom has made this point before, that the biggest thing with Bielik, I think, is putting on size, because he's a very wiry lad. But that being said, Rabiot is not particularly big stature-wise either. So, pluses and minuses.
Well, Coquelin's not the tallest guy, at all. He's not your, who's it? Who's the Rakitic or whatever the guy is from Chelsea? That big lumbering
Matic.
And Matic, that's it, not Rakitic. Sorry.
Yeah.
But he's that big lumbering, sort of defensive-minded midfielder. But Coquelin's not. He's more sort of. He reminds me of that one cat that everybody sort of has, that just sort of, that may be a little bit smaller, but just sort of fucks with all the other cats because he knows he can. That's what Coquelin reminds me of. He's just sort of like, all of a sudden he just pops up out of nowhere and wins the ball off people. That's sort of what I like about him as well. So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just a little ad thing. A name I hadn't actually thought of. Greg Gallows. I've not noticed the name. I don't know if he's new. So, have you heard of him before, Greg Gallows?
I think Greg's been in once or twice before.
Okay, cool. Well, hi to you, Greg. He suggested Sebastian Roeder, and I kind of like that shout. Drew would be the best person to talk about it, but he was very good before he went to Bayern. Was he Mainz? Was it Mainz he was at before?
Oh, crikey, you're stretching my memory bank. I know the player.
But he's not getting games at Bayern Munich, and because of the superior midfield they do have. I'd like him to come in better than Rabiot, for more than him anyway. I don't know your thought on that.
Eintracht Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, yeah. It's that badge. They have similar badges.
They do have similar badges. They do. You're right. I think just to sort of almost what I was just about to segue into briefly there, which is a good way of doing it, is that at this particular point in time, you get two types of fans. You get people like me and Tom, who are probably a little bit sad and watch lots of games and see a lot of players, and then you get other people who generally just pick out the same names. And I think it's very difficult, because the sort of players that are being talked about, if you think that we're after the players that are in the media, that's probably exactly what Arsene Wenger wants you to think, because that's exactly probably what he won't do. So when there's the talk about Carvalho being reignited and all this, I personally think that that's a massive smokescreen for us, and to potentially go and do some business elsewhere. And there is a lot of talent. I know there's a lot of arguments about our players available. We should just buy so and so. Blah blah blah. Don't get me started on Kondogbia. But I do think that it just comes down to perception, and there's a lot of players that we could potentially sign that are very, very good footballers that a lot of Arsenal fans just haven't seen. And
they just need to play FIFA more, and they'll find
of course, and Football Manager, and of course watch YouTube. But no, the point I'm making is that some people watch a lot of football from all around the world and could give you 1,000 players. I'm one of them, but ultimately, it all comes down to fan perception, and if fans want us to bring in a star big name attraction name in January, I don't think it's going to happen. That being said, we did buy Arshavin and we did buy Reyes in these January windows, and Arshavin in particular was, I wouldn't say he was a stellar name, but he was well known in European football. A lot of people knew a bit about him. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. And I know, Tom, you've just put in the chat room there about Wanyama, who I personally think is a non-starter as well. and I personally don't think he's good enough for the level we want to be at. But that's another debate for another time. But
You had to get that in there, didn't you?
I did have to get that in.
Well, isn't Mvia taking his medical at Sunderland for us right now?
Yes, but there is good news. There is good news. As John Welsh pointed out on our Hipster Pod last weekend, Sebastian Frey has now officially retired from football. So Sebastian Frey will not be an Arsenal player, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone. I know it's been coming for years, but it's not going to happen now. But no, it's going to be interesting, and I think if there ever was a time maybe to just pull the plug on a couple of quid and bring in a player, this title race is wide open, and I really think that anyone, I say anyone, I really think that we're in prime position to win it if we make the right moves, and obviously if we get a little bit of luck with footballers. And I love for Kalu and Hatram Tribelsi names that just come up in the chat room there. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, I'm going to start to round this up. Final thoughts, Jace. Final thoughts for you on today and moving forwards.
We're top of the league.
Good. And anything else you want to throw in, or is that it? I mean, that's the most important stat, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all that matters right now. Enjoy it while we've got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and thoughts. I didn't ask you the other day on who you'd like in the Champions League draw when it's made tomorrow.
I don't care. To win the Champions League, you got to beat good teams, so it doesn't matter who or when. We just need to make sure that our mindset's correct in this knockout stage, so we don't overlook anybody or end up with another, humiliating defeat. We need to make sure that that we come focused and prepared for whoever we play and not underestimate anybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tom, same question to you. Sort of final thoughts on today, moving forwards, and who do you want in the draw?
I'm really happy at the moment. It was a bit of a banana skin Villa. I mean, we haven't lost there since 1998, but I don't know why. I don't really like playing against Aston Villa. It's just a bit of a weird one, a weird fixture when we play them. Like, we've had awful results at home against them. I mean, we look back at the first game of the season a couple of seasons ago. But we got the result. We finally won a winnable game. It's weird. It's weird to come out of that and with winning that. But I'm happy, as Jay said, top of the league. You can't really complain too much. Obviously, we'll wait for Leicester to beat Chelsea tomorrow, which we all hope happens.
Danny will complain.
He will. But in terms of the Champions League, I said on the previous one we did, I would like Real Madrid because I want to go. that's pretty much about the reason. And the only one I don't want to get is Atletico. So.
Yeah.
Because Godin's the best defender in La Liga. That little chat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. He's definitely up there. Okay, good stuff. Well, that's pretty much does it for today for us. Just to re-plug Jason's blog, do have a look at that at the Bergie Blogs. OG and Kate doing a wonderful job on the blogging side of things, so do give that a look.
Plug, Chris.
It was a plug. Oh, very good. Yeah. Visual props. I like it. We're taking it up a notch. But I don't want a prop for Cockram, by the way. But yeah, do check that out. And I say they do an excellent job there, and there's some really good articles coming out to look out for. We will be back, ABW Radio. We are at the Bergie Blogs if you want to follow us. We will return, of course, after the Manchester City game, which is, as we said earlier, on a Monday night. So we'll probably be on till late for that game. I know John Welsh and Carl Walker have been confirmed for that one, and there'll probably be a third one as well, so I'll let you know when that is. Jace is chuckling away to himself there, look.
Filippo Clare just tweeted, Harry Kane's Liverpool play is getting better and better by the game. Smart, inventive, efficient. Lovely to watch and savor. I just want you to, that was specifically for you, Chris.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'd like to watch him. I'd love to watch him in an incinerator. Fucking yeah, whatever, Harry Mong.
Taking a turn for the dark. Yeah,
hasn't it just? And final personal plug from me. I will be your host for this week's podcast on Thursday. Gim is visiting a man about a dog. No, he's not. It's his birthday. So Gim is taking. Gim is meeting.
Happy birthday, Gim.
Absolutely, Gim is turning 46. So happy birthday to Gim. No,
I didn't know gingers could live that long.
Yeah, they can, and hobbits. But yeah, Gim is celebrating his birthday, so I shall be taking the reins. Mr. Jeff Arsenal and Mr. Dom Nusky will be joining me, and probably one other to be confirmed. So if you've got any questions you want to ask us, get them in early, and we will be doing a little bit about Gilberto Silva, who retired from football this weekend,
My
or this
favourite
week.
Invincible.
Yes, we'll do a little segment on him. So, yeah, tune in for that. And final thing to say is if you like what me and Tom have to say, we do another podcast. I'm not going to plug it heavily, but we do the Football Hipsters podcast, which if you like what we talk about, European football, and you want to tune in, give us a try. Little plug for you. But that is all for today. Just remains to me to thank my two panellists. So thank you very much to Tom, and thank you very much to Jace.
Thank you for having us on. Thanks to everybody to checking us out today.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks as always to the chat box. Good stuff as always, and thank you very, very much for tuning in. Keep it Arsenal, and we will be speaking to you on the pod on Thursday and the radio next Monday. Over and out. Speak to you soon.